Okay, so I am doing my podcast on the Mexico test. I can't remember what we titled this. But anyway, okay, the first topic that I covered out of the lowest scores was security apparatus. So the indicators that were listed under this topic were military, militia, the parliamentary, and then what I focused more on was private forces, use of force, accusations of political brutality, and professionalization of police. And so all of these topics are really critical to the Mexican government. And I think the way that they're most applied and how Mexico got such a low score in this category is because of how corrupt their police force has been. So we talked about it in class a lot, how cartels are so involved in how in richer parts of Mexico, like the north where there's more trade going on, cartels are going to be more involved. They're going to corrupt the police by bribing them because policemen are not paid a lot. And this results in not only violence just through the cartel groups, but also uh, the opposite side forming vigilante groups. One specific example, like we talked in class, was the Auto Defenso vigilante group. And I pulled up a map that shows violent crime index. This is in 2013, so pretty well after the attack on drugs had started. But it shows that some of the most violent crimes were happening in the north, which is just as what you would expect because the north is where all trade is occurring, and so there's going to be more cartels, more corruption, less professionalization of police with more bribes going on. And so that's where the security apparatus got such a low score. The next topic is group grievance. This includes things I focused on in this group were history of violence, vigilante justice, mass violence, and war criminals. And so, what group grievance is just like problems that are going to affect the group as a whole in a negative way, I think. And so, the application of this topic, I used the Mexican drug war of 2006. So the president at the time declared a mass war on drugs, and it's ended up killing 60,000 people because the federal government was just going after top war criminals of cartels and things like that. And this contributes to the low score of group grievance because there was a history of violence and there was no compensation or reconstruction for the victims of this. So, really, the war on drugs was waged, but it was not in the best interest of the people in the end. It ended up hurting them more than it benefited them. The next topic is human rights and rule of law, and the indicators here are political and civil rights, things like that, openness of the government. So, in this part, I quoted a article from the Harvard Journal, and it said that the where is it? The United Nations Commission on Human Rights started an investigation into Mexico after receiving federal complaints about their judges being corrupt and found 50 to 70% of them were corrupt in an official investigation. And this was because they were able to prove that the federal judicial branch was not independent from the judicial branch of Mexico. So, really, what that means is that there was no separation involvement. There really was no independent judiciary that could keep the civil rights of people independent from the motive that the federal government wanted. And that's a really dangerous thing. And I think that's the most important part of democracy is an independent judiciary. And that could probably be debated, but that allowed for an overwhelming amount of corruption. I wrote that here. And no one's civil liberties were protected without a real independent judiciary. With 50 to 70% of judges being corrupt, that's a lot. Um, all right, I'm rushing now. So the last part is public services, which is health, education, things like that. And I found a fact here that said that only 1,100 towns had less than 20% personnel of police. Really, what this shows is that there was a lack of public service, a lack of care, a lack of infrastructure, and that's why they have such a low score here. That's it. Sorry, I'm rushed.